Right now, guess who's dropped in? It's State Representative Dave Maturen of the 63rd District. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again. Got the kind of the home stretch for this spring session, or the winter session, I guess. You get a spring break, but it's not really a break. Tell us about that schedule.
Well, this week's the final week, and we have a couple weeks in district work session and just connecting with constituents, things like that. So, and then we're back after that for a couple months, and then it's election time. So we got a few more days of normal off to do what we have to do as politicians rather than legislators. So.
Oh, we don't even want to think about that after that last election. That's the last thing we even want to think about. But yeah, it's coming whether we like it or not. So this week, the House passed a bill to improve services for military veterans. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we put there's an additional, I think, $5 million in the budget, and some of the counties just don't have a very active veteran service office, and it's going to at least allow each county to have at least 20 hours a week for somebody to come in and take care of the veterans' needs. You know, essentially educate them on the benefits, how to apply, that kind of stuff. So, you know, some counties are more organized than others. Some counties aren't. So I think this will help the counties that really are struggling to be able to meet the need of the veterans instead of having them drive, you know, another 40, 50 miles to another county to get those kind of services.
Sure. And I don't know. I think the VA Medical Center scandal of a few years ago has served to put veterans' issues and taking care of our veterans maybe more in the spotlight because you see a real effort being made to try and reach out and help veterans and help them know what's available out there.
Right. There's a lot of stuff out there. They, you know, obviously are being this close to the VA center here, and you got a good veteran service office in Battle Creek and a good one in Kalamazoo. They can always use the extra money, which I think is helpful. And again, some of the counties just don't have the funds, the wherewithal to do it, and so it'll certainly be valuable to those folks.
And this will let them do just have extra people there to work the phones and meet with people, or is it technology or whatever they need?
Well, it's basically extra time to have folks there answering questions for veterans. Mm-hmm. So helping guide them through the system.
Also, you've got a bill, House Tax Policy Committee is getting ready to take up the deals with tax exemptions received by 100% disabled veterans.
Right. A couple of years ago, before I got in the legislature, the law the law changed to exempt 100% disabled veterans from paying any property taxes, and you know, it was a nice gesture to folks that have gone through what they've gone through to be in that status. But what happened is they basically it required the local units of government that provide services, fire, police, water, sewer, snow plowing, everything to those residences to end up eating the cost. And my thought is, if this is good enough for the state of Michigan, the legislature to do, and it's good enough for the state of Michigan to want to honor those folks and say you don't have to pay any property taxes, then everybody in the state should contribute to it, not just that local community. And so I've introduced a bill that would allow the veterans to receive their tax break after they pay their taxes like they did before 2013, just like a regular homeowner does, just like a partially disabled veteran does, just like renters do. They receive the money back through the income tax. There was another bill that was introduced. We had some discussion, but it would require an appropriation annually, and this doesn't require an appropriation. It's just something that's done. It's pretty simple. You just put one more box on the form, check the box, you get your money back. But everybody in the state contributes to that rather than the local units of government. And some of these local units, depending on where, you know, how many veterans are located there, have a substantial amount of property tax loss. And so I just thought it's good enough for legislature to make laws and give stuff away, then everybody in the state ought to pick it up.
And so it's still in the early stages of that.
Right. I introduced the bill when I first got in last year. Here we are in March of 2018, but going to get a hearing this Wednesday. So, and again, it doesn't change the amount that the 100% disabled veterans pay. They're still going to pay zero. It's just going to allow the local units of government to collect the money they use to provide services.
Wow, very good. Also, the House Natural Resources Committee, and you sit on that committee, right?
I do, yes.
Working on legislation that creates a strategy for managing public land in Michigan. What would that do?
Well, we've been talking about a land use plan well before I got in the legislature, and essentially it's how are we going to be looking at the buying public land, disposing of public land, and there's, I guess, north of the Aranac-Mason County line, there's plenty of state game area, plenty of federal forest, plenty of other opportunities for people to recreate and to hunt. But south of that line, there's a real shortage of those lands. Well, if you got a land cap, it means the state can't buy any more land. Then that puts us in the lower half of the Lower Peninsula, kind of on the short end of the stick. So that's one of the things that they're looking at. It would just enable the DNR to buy more hunting land down here if it came available.
I see.
So I think rather than requiring somebody to drive up a couple hundred miles to go hunting, I know we got a state game area down in Kalamazoo County, down by Waukesha, Fulton, but that's one of the few large state game areas around. So it would just give the DNR a chance to buy more land down here where there's really a lack of it, and at the same time, they're not going to be buying any more land up north. They may be selling land because you look at areas like Grayling. They got this big fiberboard company coming in. It needs a lot of acreage. They need a lot of space for housing and things, and they're pretty much surrounded by state land. So that's where people are going to have to buy land to be able to have some economic development for those communities. So I think it's just realizing that the northern part of the state deserves economic progress, and selling some state land is going to be the method that takes care of that. Fine. Down here, we probably need more state hunting lands.
Where are your colleagues who represent those areas, up north? Where are they on that? Are they in favor of selling that land or not? I imagine there's a little bit of controversy there.
Well, I think for the most part, they're looking at strategic property sales, just not willy-nilly. But I think they're in favor of it too. I think they see the need that
they need jobs up there.
They absolutely do, yeah. And there's you got to have more jobs than just the hotels, motels, and restaurants during deer hunting season. You got to have good paying jobs. And like I said, that big fiberboard plant up in Grayling, that's going to be a real game changer for that area. But they need room to expand. So
yeah, well, I don't know how many acres the Manistee National Forest or the Huron National Forests are, or the state areas up there, but a few acres here or there for jobs certainly sounds like a good trade.
I think it is, yeah.
But as far as down here goes, if somebody does like to hunt, or especially hunting, a lot of times you want to be able to go out there. You don't have time to drive 5-6 hours and up and back to do that, and unless you plan a week trip or a long weekend,
right?
You just can't do it.
Right, and the number of hunters has been slowly declining over the years. So I think they want to encourage more people to be able to get out, and if you can do it on an afternoon or a early morning on a Saturday or whatever it might be, within a few miles of your home, I think that's far better. And of course, everything's obviously going to be safe and those kind of issues will be taken care of. But it's something that has been in the works for a long time. Our chairman, Gary Howell, said, look, we've been sitting on this, and all this occurred before we got in the legislature, but, let's go ahead and take the bull by the horns and get this. And it's a fairly lengthy process. There's 3 bills involved. There's other nuances dealing with how property is valued, which is kind of something I keyed in on is what kind of appraisals, how many appraisals, if you want to buy some land or they want to sell some land, what's the process we go through to make sure that is done in an expeditious but a comprehensive manner, so the taxpayers get their fair due when they sell property or when they buy property.
Mm-hmm. We are speaking with State Representative Dave Maturen of the 63rd District. The former governor, John Engler, not too happy with state lawmakers, accusing state lawmakers, I think in the Senate, the state Senate, which you're not a member.
I am not.
Of interfering in negotiations to settle out of court with victims of former sports doctor Larry Nasser. Engler's comments in response to a set of bills adopted by the Senate last week that gave victims more time to file lawsuits. And the former governor also said the bills could subject universities to more lawsuits and drive up tuition. Is the state or some state lawmakers maybe maneuvering to keep the state out of having to get involved in any of these settlements, or what?
I mean, it's obviously a Senate issue is not a House issue yet, but since the Senate did pass something along that line, the House is going to end up with the Senate bill, taking a look at it. I understand from leadership we're not going to take it up this week. We'll be taking it up when we get back from our spring break, so to speak. But I think there are concerns. I can certainly understand the concerns of everybody that was involved with the whole Nasser deal and the people that were affected by it. Obviously, our hearts go out to those folks. But I think some people are looking at maybe some bigger issues if you're going to extend and I haven't followed this completely because it's not I'm not in the Senate. It's not a committee I'm on. But if you're going to be extending the statute of limitations back 3-4 decades. It probably has some other implications for other entities and other issues. So I'm looking forward to what the discussion is when it gets to the House and what they come up with and what the people that think it's a good idea, what their rationale is, and other folks who may not think it's the best idea in the world, to listen to them. I obviously not privy to what's been going on with negotiations with former Governor Engler as now the president of MSU. I think he probably wants to do hopefully the best thing for everybody. I would hope. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it. But he's never been known to be a shy wallflower, and if he had found something he didn't like, I think he'd probably let people know, and it sounds like that's what he did. So
right. Monday, the Treasury Department issued results of an initial round of reporting required under the Protecting Local Government Retirement and Benefits Act, and said that more than 1/5 of local governments have an underfunded pension plan. A bunch of cities being named and stuff. I just thought I'd ask you where we're at with that whole process.
I glanced at it. I got a copy of it, and I made some copies of the pages, and I didn't bring them with me. But I think there's a unit or two, and I don't know if they're cities more than perhaps libraries that within the district that I represent, or even the counties that are part of the district that I represent, have not met the standards that Treasury's laid out for these folks. So I think at that point, then it's a matter of saying, okay, what are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to get out of this? How are you going to make sure that you've made promises to people? How are you going to make sure that you can fulfill those promises? What are you going to have to do? So I think there may have been 3 or 4 that are located in my district, and we're going to kind of let things play out. There's a process. There's a system. Once you're notified that you're on the list, then there's a whole, and Treasury's willing to assist people, willing to help people, say, okay, what kind of guidance do you need? What are you going to do? But there's somehow you're going to have to figure out a way of setting aside sufficient funds to make those pension payments that you promised people.
And the last time we talked about this, I think we were kind of at the stage of just trying to identify who's where in an accurate manner, but still, there's been no real progress in the House or Senate in terms of any kind of a bill that says, well, if people don't do a damn thing, here's what we're going to have to do. Well,
actually, there was like a 5-step process, and the 5th step, the more punitive process, just never made it. But we adopted everything called steps 1 through 4, and the first step is obviously given Treasury the ability, the authority, the marching orders to look at those units that don't meet the standards that are set out. So I think there is a process in place. We just couldn't. The final, more punitive process just never made it through the legislature, probably for good reason. So at least we've got the whole scenario in play. We're going to look at the people, look at the entities, and then ask them how they're going to resolve it, and if they need help from Treasury Department, they're going to help. So I think there is a process in place, and hopefully once people realize that my local unit of government, my local agency is in trouble, hopefully that will shine enough light on them to make the board of directors, the council people, the mayor, whoever it is, and or the citizens that use those services say, hey, we got a problem here. What are you going to do to resolve it? And now it's out in the open. We shine a spotlight on it. So I think that probably a little bit of sunshine probably is a good idea in this case.
Finally, Bill Schuette, candidate for governor, making noise about passing legislation or getting legislation going that would ban lawmakers from becoming lobbyists for X amount of years. I think I heard like maybe 5 years, so that after you've served your final term, you would not be allowed to become a lobbyist for 5 years under that law. Any thoughts about that type of legislation?
I'm familiar with that type of legislation. Instead of there being a revolving door, your term ends, December 31st of whatever year it is, and January 1st you're back working for XYZ lobbying company.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a break. I think there should be some sort of a hiatus. Otherwise, you're planning on doing that, and probably your last term of office is all geared to doing what you can for that particular next job.
For heaven's sakes, a lot of us have non-competes in our contracts, like especially in radio and TV, where if we change jobs or quit the job, we can't work anywhere for almost a year.
Yeah,
we ought to at least have that. I mean, but how many years is too many?
I don't know. I think it's up to each legislative body. But, if that came to fruition, we'd want to take a look and see what happened and what other states have for that hiatus. Is there anything in the federal government? Is there anything, again, adjacent states? What do they do? How effective has it been? Can you show that it's been effective enough to change the legislative process or change the amount of influence that's out there? It happens, and I can understand, why some lobbying firm would like somebody who knows the legislative process. You know the ins and outs. You know how things become a law. You also know the people. So it's to their advantage, but I think there has to be some sort of a break there just to let the public know that it's not one continual, you're in out one door and automatically in another. So there's certainly a lot of merit in that. I'm not sure how many years is appropriate.
Sounds like a popular thing for a candidate for governor to maybe put forth.
It might, yeah.
Representative Dave Maturen, 63rd District. Thanks for taking time to drop in. I hope you have a good couple of weeks, and we'll talk to you again in April.
My pleasure. Thank you.